This episode of the only podcast about movies was recorded off-site. Shahir and I are not in the same room, and therefore you might hear a few audio anomalies you're not used to. But don't worry, I'm just as much of a jackass, and he's just as smug as if we were staring longingly into each other's eyes like usual. With that in mind, enjoy the show. What is up, Internet? Guys, I'm very excited about this podcast because it's zoo size. This is the only podcast about movies. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And my name is Shahir. Dad, you should try the cheesesteaks.
You should try the chili, motherfucker. Do you watch these movies? This is the only podcast about...
Can I do that again? Can I just do that again?
Anomalisa. No, I don't want to do it again. We're doing it live, Shahir. Anomalisa is the film this week. And the ironic part about this, dear listener, is... Shahir wanted to do this film.
I'm not a details-orientated person. I'm more of a broad picture kind of guy.
In fact, well, we'll get to a little bit more later, but we saw the broad picture, and it was not a picture about broads, but no, it is in fact a film by, who's it by, Shahir?
Charlie Kaufman. Are you a fan? We've been doing What's Your Star Wars Story? What's your Charlie Kaufman story?
I mean, really just Eternal Sunshine and Malkovich. But that's really it. I don't know much else.
You're a fan?
Yeah, no, those movies are great. I appreciate the sort of perfection and oddness, I guess you could kind of say. It's something always seems slightly off, but it's so beautiful and cool that you don't mind.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what's cool about him as well is that he is a guy that can write oddness, but with a certain degree of detail that makes it seem lived in and real. And even though it's kind of like odd and strange, you kind of accept this world as it is.
Right. Yeah.
And then something that I think we see in Anomalisa as well is that it's really touching. He can kind of use that really broad abstract brush of his and make things human and touching. Like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is still, to me, one of the most romantic films I think I've ever seen.
I mean, from a certain perspective, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and it's the same for me. Being John Malkovich was one of those transformative films. Again, saw it in college. Film school, 1999.
Could you imagine, dear listener, that Shahir? Could you imagine him just fresh out of college, just learning to hate fun?
Imagine the funless Shahir you have now multiplied by 10.
Oh, no.
And not beaten down by life yet.
Oh, Jesus.
But being John Malkovich changed my life profoundly because it made me appreciate that film. I think I saw it while I was in screenwriting class, and I remember screenwriting was all about structure and order. And then along came this film, which broke every single rule, not just about structure and order, but also about logic and reasoning and rationality, and made something profoundly beautiful. To me, the thing that's amazing about Being John Malkovich is it feels like a science fiction movie that has a beautiful heart at its core. Like the ending of it is so profoundly sad and uplifting and beautiful. So I'm a huge fan. Wasn't as big a fan of Adaptation, for example. I
don't even know if I saw Adaptation, to be honest.
Really? It's an interesting watch. And it's an interesting watch probably after you've watched this film, just to go back and see where his writing went. So yeah, he's become a director since then. His directorial debut was Synecdoche, New York, which is a film...
Not to be confused with the actual town of Schenectady, New York. Shahir and I had an interesting conversation 5 minutes before this podcast, whether or not he was saying it wrong and it was the same place. It's not. But yes.
But it was the cause of much hilarity a la Matt and Shahir, where I kept on mispronouncing it. But Synecdoche, New York is a beautiful, beautiful film that is very difficult to watch. I admit I sat down to watch it, and it really exhausted me, but it was so compelling at the same time. I couldn't put it down.
Well, it's a film.
Well, the interesting, it was one of those films I got on DVD and I put it in at like 1:00 in the morning thinking, I'm just going to see what the first 5 minutes of this movie is like.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And
you got time sucked, son.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was 3 a.m. and I was like, where have I been? What have I been doing?
What have I been doing with my life?
Yeah, no, it's so good. One of those, it's also one of those final performances from, it's not the final performance from Philip Seymour Hoffman, but I think it's one of those performances that he will be remembered by. Such a stunning film. If you're a fan of Charlie Kaufman, if you like Anomalisa, please go see Synecdoche.
Anomalisa.
Anomalisa, which is in the zoo, which is the sequel that you didn't see.
I know he mentions a zoo twice in the film, and that's the quote I chose to lead this thing off with. It's Anomalisa, like anomaly. That's
anomaly,
the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the gimmick. It's anomaly mixed with Lisa. But I'm going to call it Anomalisa because that's the type of guy I am.
Because Shahir doesn't respect movies.
Shahir only gives a fuck about what Shahir gives a fuck about.
I'm going to start calling you Qui-Gon, son. No, so we've been talking about it a little bit. Something very interesting before we even get into the plot of this film is its style. And basically, it is a stop motion film done. I don't know the actual materials they used. Is it a form of clay or do you even know, Shahir? Do you have any idea?
I believe it's akin to the to what they use for the box trolls, which is that it's a synthetic material that's over a skeleton,
right?
So over like a mechanical skeleton. So it's not claymation, which has, claymation has that you can see the fingerprints on the faces kind of feel to it and changes every frame. These are actually puppets that are animated. So it has this unusual texture to it. You can see the kind of grain or material on the faces of the people.
And it's really cool, like especially when they do their super close-ups of mouths and sort of things. It's just an interesting texture that you're not used to seeing on, I guess, puppets or claymation characters or animated things. And it gave it sort of a feeling of its own. So you have this fantastical look to it. But normally, and Shahir, you had said this before, but normally when using a medium like this, you do crazy shit.
Yeah.
You do Nightmare Before Christmas, or you do, box trolls, or you do, stuff that you can't do.
Yeah, or the Fantastic Mr. Fox, for example.
Sure, yeah. And this, and we'll get into the full story of it in a minute, it was basically the story of a man going to a conference in Chicago.
Yeah.
And he had stayed at a hotel.
Cincinnati. Did you even watch the movie?
Yeah, we're both bad. So it's a much more small sort of feeling, I mean, as far as the activity is concerned of what the characters do. But it's a really interesting choice to use the medium that they did to tell this story. And actually, Shahir, do you have the synopsis?
Yeah, I do. So this is just the IMDb synopsis. Michael Stone, an author that specializes in customer service, is a man who is unable to interact deeply with other people. His low sensitivity to excitement and his lack of interest made him a man with a repetitive life on his own perspective. But when he went on a business trip, he met a stranger, an extraordinary stranger, which slowly became a cure for his negative view on life that will possibly change his mundane life. That is a terrible synopsis written by someone on IMDb.
That's
apologies.
fucking awful. At first I was going to be like, oh, maybe there might be some spoilery shit. Nope, that just makes it sound like a day, it must be Tuesday.
The one-liner is, a man crippled by the mundanity of his life experiences something out of the ordinary. And that's interesting because look, we're pitching you a stop motion movie now about a guy in a hotel room. And I don't know how you felt about it, Matt, but the thing that I really dug about the film is this felt like this could be a play. This felt like this could be on stage as a 2 or 3 person play.
Yeah, it could, except for one hook, which we'll get into later, I think would be very difficult to pull off. And it's actually sort of a linchpin of how this movie works, but I don't want to talk about that quite yet.
Yeah. And I know what you mean as well, but I guess what I'm talking about is just the overall, the things that happen are pretty much one room, you could count, like there are 4 locations in this film,
Sure.
a hotel bar, the hotel room, a house, and a cab. So it felt like to me like you could stage this as a play, and I think it would be an interesting one. And I'm not particularly a person who goes to a lot of plays, but I think this would strike me as something I would want to see. So that's the basic synopsis of the film. Matt, do you want to give us your just general take before we get into spoilers?
Yeah, this is a film, I think, and not being middle-aged yet.
Oh, come on now.
No, we're what are we, like third or like 2/5? We're 2/5 age. Is that a thing?
I don't know. My quarter life crisis.
Yeah, but we're beyond that. We're somewhere in the middle of half and quarter, so 2/5. No, I think it's something that like a lot of people, I mean, you can relate to it almost in any form of your life, but I think the older you are, the more sort of real it is. It's just that sort of feeling that you're just, the film itself really struck a chord with me because it really sort of encapsulates the feeling of the mundane and how you sort of go through your life and how everything's the same, and then something new hits you and it feels absolutely fantastic and you're like, oh my God, this is what my life is missing. And then you kind of realize that it's not like this actual special thing. It's just something different. And the way this film chooses to sort of go about telling that story, it was very interesting. I can't say that any of the characters particularly grabbed me or I gravitated towards any of them, but I don't think that was really the point. I think the point was trying to tell you that, like, everyone feels like this from time to time. It's not just you. And it's not something, I mean, if there was a moral to this film, and we'll get into sort of how it gets there, I would say the moral is like, stop whining in a really weird sort of way. I know I'm being kind of vague, but again, that's my take. I think it's good, and I think it'd be a good watch for anyone who's open to something a little different.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's really about the mundane. Like as the synopsis said, it's about we've repeated that word so many times now that we're almost robbing it of what it can signify.
Really, we're robbing mundane of its importance.
Well, because the one thing I would say is that this film begins, and it takes about 25 minutes to actually get to another character, and the first 25 minutes are really about a guy turning up in Cincinnati, getting in a cab, having like an annoying conversation with some dude, moving to a hotel, checking in a room, ordering room service. And like if you told me that was the first 25 pages of your script, I would say you need to cut that 25 pages and get to the moment the first first conflict happened. But the thing that's interesting about those first 25 minutes is it is about the mundane, and so when I say we're robbing the term mundane of its comedy and its irony, that's what this film is playing off, which is that those scenes to me are surprisingly compelling given how much they're about nothing.
Well, I think honestly, the reason that they were able to do that and the reason that they are compelling is the fact that it's done in an interesting way. And I'm not saying you can only make a compelling thing out of those 25 minutes you described with stop motion, but I think that's a very smart way to do it. And also, like, you could do this movie live action, sure, but you'd have to think of some sort of visual catch to really sort of sell you, because it's funny, the movie felt so mundane, and actually you might as well just sort of jump into sort of what we were talking about, but like that conversation with the annoying cabbie when the guy lands in Cincinnati, Michael Stone does, and he gets in the cab. And the cabbie starts having the conversation that if you've ever been in a cab from an airport, that you've always had with every cab driver you've ever been
Go
in
to the zoo.
a car with.
Go to the zoo. Try the chili. It's great.
Yeah, but very opinionated, like nice but opinionated. Won't stop talking when you just want them to be quiet. You've just had a 9-hour flight or whatever. You're just trying to get to where you want to go. You're not looking for a single serving friend. And that might sound like a shitty person thing, but fuck it, that's me. And no, so like everything about that, getting to the hotel, having the person, just everyone being that fake friendly to you. You get up to your room, you order room service, you have nothing to do. You think, am I going to go to the bar? What's the deal? You look around for old friends that might be in the town that you're in. Just because you're so sort of bored with what's going on. I've had all of those experiences before in my life, and this captured the just dullery of that entire experience perfectly. So that was something that through that sort of mundaneness in the beginning, it really drew me in to sort of make me try to relate this, but not even try. It made this story relate to me more.
Yeah, and I think that's a testament to either his writing. It's one of three things. It's either his writing, the direction, or the fact that it's in stop motion. But I think given Charlie Kaufman's track record, I think he is a good observer of human interaction. Like
everything felt real.
Yeah,
Everything felt like it could have been a conversation out of my life.
And there are like little oddities, he's good at like giving you little odd moments. So for example, the main character, Michael Stone, walks up to the hotel attendant and asks him to like, check him in. And the attendant just locks eyes with him and doesn't shift his gaze as he's typing in everything he wants. And it
was amazing. It was so uncomfortable. And at first you're like, is this a mistake in the animation? But you realize it's actually like what it's supposed to do. He's typing away at the computer looking for a better room for Michael. And
he just like stares him down the whole time.
10 to 15 minutes of just staring him in the face, not looking at the computer screen. Then he's like, oh, yep, we got it right here. Okay. Yeah. And it's like,
And then there's that, this thing that I always find really awkward, which is a guy comes and helps you, like the bellboy comes and helps you to your room. And you have to have this conversation where essentially someone's just carrying your bag for you. And it's this awkward sort of like, so what are you doing in Cincinnati? How's your room? Like your room has this, and this. And it's like, I know this. I don't need this in my life. Please. It's like getting a haircut.
And then you have to pay them to leave.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like when you're getting a haircut, like this person is in your personal space and you have to have a conversation with them, but you would prefer it if you didn't have to do that.
Right. Well, actually, I like talking to the barber, but that's just, but yes, I don't want to talk to, yes, in the situation of the movie described. Yes,
yeah.
100%.
So one thing that's startling about this, like if it was a play as well, is that it is about the mundane, but it makes the mundane fascinating because of how well observed the mundane is in this scenario.
Right. Yep.
And I think we'll get into spoilers in a second. That pays off towards the end of the film as well.
100%.
As Michael Stone slowly begins to unravel in more ways than one. But as a general, should you go see this movie before we get into spoilers? I think absolutely you should go see this movie. I think it's visually striking. Be aware that it is about mundane, about the mundane. It's about boring things. It's set in a hotel room, so it's essentially about commuting travelers. But there is a beating heart to this film that is quite beautiful. That happens around the midway point, and I wouldn't put it in the ranks with alongside Being John Malkovich or
no, I don't think
Adaptation or any of those, or Eternal Sunshine. Those are much grander visions of the human experience. This is a much, much smaller, intimate film. So, but I really enjoyed that. And then I had this thing, which I was watching it kind of, like half-heartedly. And then at some moment though, I did laugh out loud, like I haven't laughed out loud in a movie for a long time, but I started, like really get, the more you kind of absorb this movie into your kind of personal psyche, the more I found compelled by it, and the more I was willing to just go wherever it was going. So
even if that place is stop motion sex,
well, we've been there with Team America. We're going to take a slightly more serious road with
well, we haven't had a serious. Oh, and by the way, thank you for picking the stop motion sex movie for me to watch at my parents' house.
Oh boy, Christmas with the Krolls.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. So before we get into spoilers, yes, go see it. I think this is a fascinating film to watch at the movies. I think there's a lot to talk about, but it is a small, very, very small, intimate movie. If that's not your thing, then maybe this isn't for you. But I thought it was a welcome respite from the bigger movies we've been talking about this year.
And I also, last thought about that before we just crack this whole thing open, I think a lot of people would hear what we've said, and I think like a lot of people that think they'd be turned off by this movie, that they wouldn't enjoy it, would probably still enjoy it if they gave it a shot. I find, and this might be a judgment call on my part, but like I find a lot of people, like whenever you say like, oh, it's a small film, it's a heady film, it's more emotional based, like blah, blah, blah. A lot of people kind of shy away from that shit. And rightfully so, because there's been a whole bunch of trash, just like there's been a whole bunch of trash of other genres. But like, I feel like when you say a film is small, sometimes it gets a bad rap. And I don't think that's the case in this or a lot of cases. I think if people just Give this one a go. This is actually, to be honest, I would say this is a phenomenal. If you're getting a little bored with the summer blockbuster or the typical, every joke comedy given away in the trailer, this would be something that I would suggest to see just to test the waters, like dip your toe in something a little weird, because it's not offensive enough or whatever where you'll give up an hour and a half and you'll hate your life. It's just something different, and you might open a door to something you like a lot better.
That said, there is Puppet 6, and fairly explicit Puppet 6.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't want to watch that with your parents on Christmas Eve. I don't know.
This is, well, I watched it, it happened.
All right. So let's our general consensus is please go see it. I think it's an interesting film. Let's move on into spoilers starting now. Spoilers. Did you see the aliens coming? I didn't see them coming.
Well, it was when I heard that it was a dream within a mirage, within a vision, that really threw me off.
And it was when Optimus Prime started speaking about the Autobots taking back over that I thought, whoa, this movie is really split my head open right now. No, but anyway, guys, moving on from our bad jokes.
Oh, we're not going to continue that? I had a whole thing about Cthulhu tap dancing, but no, you can just end it when you want.
I'm the buzzkill of the show, so let's kill some buzzes. No, spoilers from now on, but the thing that happens midway through those mundane conversations is we realize that Michael Stone has visited Cincinnati before, and he has a lover whom he left abruptly possibly 10 years ago, and he decides
11.
And we see that through a letter.
She corrects him, just like I corrected Shahir.
Oh, so you're my 10-year lover, Matt.
11.
Is it 11 years?
In the movie it is. I don't know how long we've known each other.
Okay. So he decides to call her back up, and she comes over, and we realize how much his departure has affected another person, which is interesting because the film is so insular and it's about his own personal psychosis, his own personal problems, that it's interesting to see how much he affects other people. And then
also an important fact here, I think, and it's sort of interesting. Michael Stone is a sort of very specific minor celebrity.
Yeah, very
so
minor.
Everyone, as he's walking by, though, in this thing, and I don't know if any of you have ever been to conferences or Comic-Cons or PAX or anything, but every interest in business has a conference that people go to. And Michael Stone wrote a book about customer service efficiency and ways to do customer service that ups basically productivity. And apparently he's really good at it. Now, that sounds super boring because it probably is. But to these people, everyone staying at this hotel for this conference to go hear him speak, he's kind of a big deal. I think that's important to sort of set up.
Although, admittedly, the first time that happened, when he was walking through the lobby and people are saying Michael Stone, oh look, it's Michael Stone. I kind of did wonder if that was just going on in his head, because this film does an interesting thing with sound, which is that we hear conversations layered upon each other. The film actually opens with like maybe
you hear the entire airplane.
Yeah, 20 or 30 people having a conversation over each other. So I kind of wondered about whether that was part of his own narrative in his brain, people noticing him.
Yeah.
And
turns out it's not.
Well, there's an interesting...
it could be. It could be.
There's an interesting thing that happens at the midway point after he meets his former lover, and they have a conversation at the bar, which doesn't go well. He gets a little drunk, ends up buying a Japanese sex doll for his son.
Let's back up. This is weird. Okay, I'm gonna get to you. I'm gonna get here in the least amount of steps. Michael Stone checks into the hotel. He's alone in his room. He calls his current wife and son to see how they're doing or whatever. The typical calling home to check in call. The son only wants to know if he got him a present yet. He didn't. They have a nice conversation. They hang up. He gets bored, calls his old ex from probably, I imagined, before he was even married, because when he calls her, he tells her, oh, yeah, I got a wife now and a kid. And she's like, oh, that's great. I don't. So they decide to go meet for a drink. that goes horribly wrong because he's just sort of doing that thing that, I mean, I've done it as an ex-boyfriend back when I was single, talking to exes that I've been with, like that whole, fucking.
It's the premise of High Fidelity, where you're revisiting past lovers to see where you went wrong.
To see what fucked up. Was it you? Was it them? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Fun fact, doesn't matter. But he does that. He fucks it up. She storms out. He's like, crap, I have to get my son a toy because I promised him I would. He actually asked the cab driver if there was a toy shop, and the cab driver, the one supposed useful piece of information, he's like, yeah, it says one that's open 24 hours. He's like, okay. Turns out to be a sex toy shop. And then he gets this instead because he has nowhere else to go for a toy. He's only in town for one day. He gets this antique Japanese sort of, robot sex doll thing.
It's kind of like it came out of the movie Hugo, those robots in Hugo.
Mm-hmm. And then so that's where we're at.
Yeah. And then something happens, and the film kind of takes a break here because he's in the shower and he's looking himself in the mirror, and suddenly it's as though the stop motion starts falling apart somewhat. He's looking at himself in the mirror.
His face starts glitching.
Yeah. And it's as though like the animators are suddenly like making a mess of it. And it sends him into the spiral where he starts running down a hallway and looking for a friend. Now, for me,
I was confused here.
Yeah, I was confused, and I'm not sure if this is correct, and I don't know if it even matters if it's correct or not. But from the point at which that happened in the shower, I kind of took everything that happened from here on in as a break in his psychological makeup. Like everything that was happening from now on in was really just happening in his head. Or I wasn't sure if it was happening in his head and if it wasn't. Now, I think the film kind of wants you to ask those questions, because what does happen from here on in is slightly fantastical, in that he runs down a hallway randomly knocking on doors asking for a friend. I'm not exactly sure why he's doing that.
Well, I have a theory to that.
Okay.
Basically, you see, I'm going to rewind just a little bit. So one of the art styles of this film, of this stop motion characters, is everyone's sort of split at the eyes, like just slightly. There's a bottom part of their face and a top part of their face. And imagine like a line crossing your face horizontally, like between your eyes. It's very minimal, and it's a definite style choice. I wondered sort of why they did that.
It made them look like they were all wearing like wireframe glasses as well.
Yeah,
like
why are you wearing that stupid man suit? Like that's what I felt like. So during this glitch scene, the lower half of his face, he like pulls it off a little bit. You're like, what the? And when he snaps it back on, it's because he hears people in the hallway. It's my thought that the group of people that he meets at the end of his running down the hallway looking for a friend is who he heard, because he thought other people were coming or other people were around. And then when he couldn't find them, he was just banging on doors because he was kind of losing his mind.
Yeah, I thought it was much more internal than that, as in he just had these voices in his head, because I don't know why he was looking for a friend. What that
I think
meant.
that was just an excuse because he was banging on doors.
Yeah, but he ends up having a conversation with possibly the two people we heard downstairs in the lobby saying, "Oh my God, it's Michael Stone! It's Michael Stone!"
Right.
And it's these two kind of customer service groupies, if you will, which is an oddity. But they're there to hear him speak at the conference the next day. And he decides to go downstairs to have a drink at the bar with them. And I forget the other girl's name, but one of the girls' names is Lisa, hence the title Anomalisa.
You said it right.
Oh my God, 10 points for me. I win.
And you're Kermit.
Yeah, I'm Kermit the Frog, winning the internet.
Oh wow!
But then what follows is this beautiful. I found it really touching courtship with Lisa, one of the two girls, where he takes her back to her room after this conversation. I'm abbreviating what happens, but he essentially falls in love with her because of the sound of her voice.
Well, now let's stop here and talk about that for a second, because
the voice thing, I just wanted to get into that.
Yeah. So basically, up until this point, something we've left off of this entire thing is Michael Stone is voiced by an actor, and I don't know the actor's name.
David Thewlis.
David Thewlis. And everyone else, men, women, children, are all voiced by another dude. That's the same
Noonan.
guy. What was it?
This Tom Noonan, who is an actor who's been around for a while, but I favoritely remember him as Francis Dolarhyde from Manhunter. He was the
So everyone else is voiced by them, and I was like, is this a before this I was like, is this a choice? Like, are they doing this like an audiobook style? Like, I didn't quite understand why. And he meets Lisa, and Lisa is the first person with an actual different, this time, female voice. And that, I feel like, really, if there's one gem of this entire movie, it's how they manage to, through this sort of construct of the way they're telling their narrative, actually give you a tangible way to, if not feel it, at least comprehend the feeling that he feels about how special he feels this girl is.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because everyone else has the same voice, and Tom Noonan's got a lovely voice. It's weird because he's playing boys and girls. So somehow his voice manages to sound effeminate when he's speaking through the voice of a female, and masculine when he's speaking through the voice of a male, and he doesn't change his intonation at all.
I just thought he sounded like a dude. I don't know.
Oh, really? I thought he sounded like a sort of a husky female. It was really interesting. But then Lisa has a female voice, and it's voiced by Jennifer Jason Leigh, who we also saw in The Hateful Eight. So she's having an interesting year as well. But yeah, like you said, you really feel the transformation that Michael feels because her voice is so different. He talks at length about how beautiful her voice is, and it is beautiful. He even asked her to sing her a song, and what does she sing?
She sings Cyndi Lauper's "Girls Just Want to Have Fun."
And it's surprising because I was kind of like mesmerized by the way she sang it.
Well, I think the movie sets you up perfectly to get mesmerized. I mean, yes, she has a great voice, there's no question. And she doesn't sing, she just like built it out of the park like Cyndi Lauper style, but she just sings it sort of like that quiet way you sing when you don't want a lot of people to hear you sing.
The way you would sing it in the shower.
No, Shahir, I sing it in the shower like belted it from the fucking rooftops.
Well, listen, not every one of us is a karaoke champion like Matthew Kroll is, but...
Hey, four-time. Well, international.
International. Fun side story. Matt Kroll and I were once were we in Germany? No,
we were in Germany. We were in Frankfurt, Germany.
We were in Frankfurt, Germany, and Matt Kroll belted out The Darkness, I believe in you belted out
Tenacious D, Fuck Her Gently first.
Yeah, and the owner of the bar we were in, the person running the karaoke contest, was so taken by Mr. Kroll that we got a little uncomfortable for one, and then second, Kroll won the karaoke championship.
And they bought us all drinks twice. They bought the whole party drinks. That was the part that I was proud of.
We get it. You're amazing at karaoke.
No,
You're an
that's
amazing
the only part. I don't want to talk about how the dude was hitting on me. I want to talk about how we got free alcohol. But I digress.
Well, we digress. Jennifer Jason Leigh delivers a really beautiful rendition of Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Yes.
And it's lovely because Lisa's character is set up as an adoring fangirl of Michael Stone. And she has this like self-effacing quality where she thinks she's ugly. She thinks she's not very intelligent. You know, she tells Michael that she read his book with a dictionary nearby. And it's incredibly endearing, but you immediately see the power dynamic that's happening that allows Michael to fall in love with her. The film doesn't shy away from Michael's own narcissism, which I think is which is really interesting, because you would expect, there's a moment where you're hoping that the film would have someone call out Michael for being a douche, because he is a douche to everybody.
And he's a douche. And the thing I was going to get to was I always have a problem if you're trying to, and you're not trying to root for Michael. I don't think this movie's out for you to root for Michael. But I do think that I always have a problem getting behind a protagonist that is like instantly a cheater.
Yeah.
Is that, if that makes any sort of sense? So that sort of throws you off of the whole like, oh my God, he loves this girl already. I was just like, nah. He's not a douche to everybody. He's just...
You can see that he looks down upon everyone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he's polite enough. There's a difference, I think.
To a point, which happens later. There's a break that happens later on in the film.
Sure.
Where he breaks that facade. But you know, like I would say, you know, again, coming from a writer's point of view, you might say, well, where's a character who's going to call him out for his for like him being a douche? But inherently, the writing is so subtly pointed, you know, like that allows it allows the audience to see that. You don't, and spoiler alert, no one calls him out for being a douche. No, yeah, and you don't need to, because you as the audience kind of see it, and you get it as well.
This isn't a movie about comeuppance.
Yeah. So I think that's just a lovely piece of writing, you know, like the character is so rich and the interactions are so rich that we see the power dynamic that's happening without anyone spelling it out.
Right.
And at the same time, the courtship that happens between Michael and Lisa, I found it so lovely, and so kind of like pleasant and delightful to listen to. And
by courtship, they mean the flirting drunkenly in the hotel room after the bar. Then they get it on stop motion style. Then they wake up together and like have breakfast and stuff.
Yeah, and the thing that
single serving courtship.
Single serving courtship. Yeah, it's you know, like again, this could be a one night play, but the courtship is so lovely. You know, like just like little details, like Lisa has a scar on the side of her face, and Michael asks to kiss it, and Lisa immediately goes, "You're not some kind of creepy fetishy guy, are you?" And he says no, and we know that his reason, we kind of understand his reason for wanting to kiss her, and we understand her reason for being for wanting to back away from him.
Right.
It's played so well, and it feels so real.
And another thing I will say, especially like moments like that, those small but like really powerful moments with that you'd be used to like just a really strong physical actor pulling off. It is a marvelous technological feat to get the exact same emotions from these stop motion characters, like the way that their faces move in super tiny ways that actually like really I mean, I felt every emotion I feel like I would feel if these were actual people I was seeing. And I've you know, I don't know if that threshold, because I've gotten misty at cartoons before too, and who hasn't cried at a Pixar movie, but like there's something specifically, I don't know if claymation or not claymation, stop motion has ever gotten me in that way, and this one definitely did.
I think stop motion has something over computer generated imagery like the Pixar movies that we have, which is that they have this tactile, physical, human quality. We see kind of weird movements because of because the animation has to be done by hand.
I noticed little ticks in Michael's hair, like it just sort of flickered sometimes.
And I kind of like, and then they're like, and also, you know, I want to just full disclaimer here: the film was co-directed by Charlie Kaufman and Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson is this is his first time directing a feature film, and I think he was brought in more to handle the stop motion side of it. I oddly knew who Duke Johnson was through a TV show he made years ago called Moral Orel, which was about with these little 15-minute episodes about a Christian child who takes the teaching of the Bible and Christianity and warps them completely. And it has this sort of funny, let's go pipe bomb an abortion clinic kind of.
Funny.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. And I don't know why, but I didn't love the show, but he had a pit dog that would always say, "I don't know, Gravy," and I always walked around saying, "I don't know, Gravy," whenever I was about to do something stupid. So credit to Duke Johnson as well for the way the stop motion is at the same time alien to us, because it's this alien heightened reality, but somehow they do a lot of work capturing emotions. Like the stop motion has a lot of detail where people are, turning their heads ever so slightly, or they're really delivering human performances through stop motion, which is extraordinary. It really works.
So kudos to Duke Johnson for that, and kudos to Duke Johnson for having probably the most manly fucking name on the planet. Duke Johnson.
That dude should be playing in the NBA right now. Just on his name alone. It is lovely. And there are some really uncanny valley moments as well where I remember, I don't know about you, when you played when I was a kid and I played Prince of Persia for the first time.
Oh yeah,
the little side scroller,
very fluid.
And people moved really fluidly. It kind of like, it is quite striking just watching someone running. And there's a moment in this film where Lisa is walking towards Michael and she falls over and Michael runs over to her. And
that looks really good.
Yeah, and it was this like real uncanny valley kind of moment because it felt so real. And then you kind of realize that oh wait, but these are still puppets.
It's interesting, just from a gaming perspective, that Prince of Persia totally made me feel like that. That's made me feel like that a couple times. But most recently, and I'm not saying this is good or bad, but the new Star Wars game, Battlefront.
Yeah.
Again, it's a little light on content, but it's a shooter. But when you see stormtroopers running at you over the ridge, I don't know what they did with the animation in that, but like it looks film accurate. Like it looks like people running across multi-layered terrain. So whenever something and you're wowed by it, you're like, that's not real. Like this had the same effect. It always shocks me in a good way.
And I think what has to do with is you're not capturing the moment precisely, the action precisely, but you're capturing the essence of the moment. You're capturing what's important in that moment. And
I think a lot of times that can be luck or that can be skill.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's skill in this case because it's done so well throughout the film.
Right.
And I can't think of a stop motion film which goes into so much detail as this does with like the expressions on the face. It is really, really lovely. And so Michael then has, they have sex. And again, I think the sex, even though it's puppet sex, is really lovely. Like it's really, I will say it felt a little short. It does that movie sex thing, which is that like, when they finally get to the sex, it only lasts like 30 seconds. And I think there was a funny study I remember reading about the fact that movie sex does a really bad job of describing the time. But again, Michael Stone could be the kind of guy who only takes 30 seconds to
Michael Stone, Minuteman.
Minuteman. But everything up until that point I thought was really lovely. And, like the film really takes the time to like show the awkwardness and then show the tenderness that happens between two people when they're, having sex for the first time on a one-night stand. She feels uncomfortable, but wants to open up to him. And he wants to please her, but doesn't want to go too far. And it's this sort of gingerly kind of tenderness that happens between these two puppets. And so it's nothing like Team America.
Yeah, promise me you'll never die. Yeah, so that happens, and then we have sort of an elongated dream sequence that you don't know is a dream sequence of Michael's. Basically, in this dream in the movie, he wakes up and he's called to the manager of the hotel's office, and it's super weird.
I love this scene. I thought this was hilarious. Great. Yeah, I burst out laughing during this.
Basically, he starts dreaming. This is sort of, I think, how he is his. How did you describe him? He's
his narcissism?
Narcissism, thank you. His narcissism sort of plays in here because the hotel manager's like, I see you spent an evening with Lisa last night or whatever. And he's like, how do you know that? He's like, I don't care if you have an affair, but you should have it with me. He's like, I love you, Michael. And like, he's like, just anyone but Lisa. Have an affair with anyone but Lisa. and like all the desk girls downstairs near the office say that they would let him have sex with them and like all this shit. And he like escapes and he runs upstairs and he grabs her. And he's like, we're the only two people. Like everyone else is someone else, and then there's just you and me, and like we have to get away from here. Like we're afraid, and like all of a sudden they're banging at her door, and they're like, "Not Lisa, not Lisa," and then he wakes up.
It kind of reminds me of the Malkovich moment.
It was very Malkovich.
Yeah, you know, like when Malkovich goes into his own head and everyone's Malkovich. It has, you know, and it's what Charlie Kaufman is really good at, which is that he's created a dream sequence that perfectly reflects the internal psychology of the character. And it's not, you know, I mean, I'm writing a film right now with a dream sequence, and I feel like I'm writing a dream sequence just to have cool visuals. And this is, I feel, is cool visuals, but it's also perfectly reflective of what's happening in the film.
Sure.
So I think it's great. Finally, then there's this I think this scene is fantastic. The turn, yeah. Where, well, it's before the turn. It's the breakfast.
The turn happens at breakfast.
Well, I would argue the turn, well, maybe I'm thinking of the break when Michael finally breaks down happens a little bit later on when he's.
No.
When he's on
the
stage.
Turn for me. The turn. There's two more moments in this movie. It's Michael and Lisa having breakfast, and then Michael finally giving his speech.
Yeah, so
in that order.
So when Michael and Lisa are having breakfast, he kind of makes these grand gestures that he's going to leave his wife and they're going to run off together and they're going to have a life together and move to Los Angeles. And as he's doing it, he's watching her eat, and he stops mid conversation. He's like, "Could you please stop chewing with your mouth open, or could you please stop rubbing your fork against your teeth? It's really bugging me." And you suddenly realize again how much of a narcissist this guy is.
Not even narcissist, just sort of like anal retentive too, and just sort of like this dude has a way he likes things, and if it's not 100%, then it's not good enough.
And Lisa is perfectly accommodating because she is still a fangirl at this point. And you realize, you know, again, everything that was lovely about the night before, where you're kind of watching it thinking, oh, maybe this is what the film is about, suddenly turns on its head. And you realize, oh boy, this cannot be. This, whatever is happening here needs to stop, and these two need to go their separate ways.
And as these things sort of get called out by Michael, he starts hearing a mix of Lisa's voice mixed in with the generic voice of that other actor, like overlaid on top of each other. Yeah, just so you hear like double speak from both of them, and you're like, oh, he's like, the infatuation is fading, like in the light of day with all of this. Like basically, Lisa is becoming an actual person, and he fell in love with an ideal.
Yeah, oh, it's that's a really great way to describe it. I just kind of, again, you know, like I was hooked for some reason. I was hooked when he got drunk and walked into the toy store and bought the Japanese robot. But at this point,
that's because you're a deviant, Shahir.
I am a deviant. What can I say? I was into Puppet Six. You know, maybe I was hooked at Puppet Six, but at this point, I am like, I am going along with every scene of this film. So after the scene we've just described happens, Michael has to deliver a speech that he, you know, the customer service speech. And it's really interesting because he's trying to describe customer service in terms of every customer as a human being. And we have to get past the idea that they're a customer and we have to see them as a human being. Something that
This is at the convention, by the way.
Yeah.
You just sort of said he went into his speech. I just wanted, this is a different scene.
Yeah,
and they're at the convention.
And
Lisa's in the audience. Everyone's in the audience. He's speaking.
And you see that he is completely, you know, he's one of these guys that is completely incapable of doing the things he's talking about. And all of a sudden the facade starts to break down, and he goes into a rant, you know, a semi-political rant about the failings of American corporatism, which is...
And can I say, I think, so he starts breaking down, he starts doing all these things like calling himself out, telling the audience he's really lonely, telling him he hates his life and all that stuff, but he keeps going back into his speech. But like all that stuff about the personal stuff, I felt very good about. The random political 20 seconds, like one of his tirades is about like war crimes and
the deconstruction of American education, which is causing people to become sheep, and you know.
Right. That actually, if I had to put a thing in the movie that threw me out and that I didn't like, and I'm all about that message. Like I agree with a lot of things that character said at that point, but it felt so out of left field and kind of agenda-y. Like, and by the way, also in this tiny small movie about interpersonal relationships and how nothing is ever good enough for certain human beings. By the way, here's a bunch of political garbage in 10, 15 seconds. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I really, that was probably the major problem I had with it. And you know, Shahir, how I've said in the past, when a movie is so close to being great that it then sort of just fucks up a little bit, it bothers me more than a movie that's average that fucks up a bunch.
I can see that. I actually didn't have a problem with it because I felt this is the kind of conspiracy theory thing that a character like him who believes he's smarter than everyone else believes in his private life, and like he's suddenly having such a break that he starts spelling out random things to make himself feel smarter than everybody else in the room.
Maybe,
but it comes off terribly. Like, I don't think the film is invested in the agenda of what he's saying as much as it's invested in the thinking behind why he would say that.
Maybe, but I think there's other ways to do it that are less sort of, not genre breaking. What's the topic breaking, kind of. Yeah. I don't know. It just didn't sit with me. And that's, again, it could be on me.
No, I agree. Like, when I watched it, I was like, whoa, is this film suddenly taking a political turn and is becoming about, because the film is, this idea of like customer service is made fun of throughout the film. And I was kind of waiting for the moment that they would tie that back into his human experience.
Right.
And suddenly the film kind of starts talking about the failure of American democracy. But I, and that could tie into like corporatism and like the false happiness that customer service is supposed to project, which could tie into his, his problems of wanting happiness. But I really don't think the film is that invested in that as an agenda. I don't think it is either. I'm just saying it's a choice that threw me. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, we've been in like 2 rooms so far, and then all of a sudden they bring that up, and I'm like, okay. Yeah. But again, I kind of liked it. I enjoyed where it went, and I guess I kind of liked that the film was willing to, like from a writing point of view, it was willing to take such a huge leap as well, and then come back, and then from there on in, come back to such a human place.
It didn't feel like a leap to me because it felt like a misstep, honestly, just because it was so out of, like, everything else felt like it fit perfectly in this neat little box that they had built, this neat weird box, which consisted of a ton of shit.
Yeah,
I don't know. Regardless, we're agreed. I disagree.
Agree to disagree. But then we move. Michael flies back. Of course, he's never gonna hook up with Lisa or continue his relationship with Lisa, because that would be a bad idea for everyone, from anyone's part. And he goes back home with his Japanese sex doll, sex
for
robot.
His son.
For his son.
His 16th century Japanese sex robot for his son.
He walks in on a surprise party that's being thrown for him, which of course reminds him of the problem he's having in his life, which is nothing is exciting to him anymore.
He's annoyed at his surprise party with all of his friends.
At his surprise party. But again, this is a very small film, because the film, he basically, despite still feeling the way he feels, decides to stay with his family and sits back down. What's funny is, again, this made me laugh out loud, but the Japanese sex doll starts working, and like everyone's like saying, what's coming out of its mouth? It's semen, isn't it? I think it's semen. I don't think I burst out laughing, which I haven't in a while. I have a friend of mine, Yuko, who I sent the sex doll starts singing a song, and I asked Yuko to translate the song for me. It's nothing rude. It's basically a song called The Peach Boy, about a little boy asking for a peach.
I thought it was actually Girls Just Want to Have Fun, but I was mistaken.
No, yeah, it's this peach song. If anyone looks it up, it's called The Peach Boy. Thank you, Yuko, for translating that for me. But then the film just kind of fades away, and we see a final letter, kind of similar to the letter that that Michael sent his former lover, but that Lisa is now sending to Michael.
No, that Michael got from his former lover, the woman he meets, the 11-year past one. She had his letter. He had her letter to him from like 11 years ago with him.
And now he's getting a letter from Lisa.
Yes.
And the lovely thing about the letter from Lisa is Lisa's basically saying, I'm happy that we had this time together. It made me. She doesn't so much say these words, but it made her feel beautiful for a moment.
Yeah,
and it's lovely.
I don't think it was just for the moment. I think that interaction, and it was so nice to see a film sort of take this, like the girls or whoever is the rejected party in one of these movies, not devastated and need to crawl out and find someone else to make them whole again. Like this felt really good, and I'm glad they ended it in this way because it was just sort of nice to be like, yeah, like. It was a great experience, and even though not everything came true that we said would or that you said it would, like it still made me feel special and was a time that I will look back on fondly. Yeah.
So it's like unlike the previous encounter he'd had with the former lover at the beginning, whose name I can't remember and we can't remember, and it's not on IMDb. This is actually like a positive experience, even though he did cheat on his wife. It was a positive experience for Lisa,
for her.
And I think that to me, I don't know what it was about that ending, but it put a smile on my face, and
because Shahir was a happy ending. That's the weird part. Michael, this kind of scumbag, went back to his family and life that he hates for some reason because he doesn't seem like he can be happy with anything. And the girl who you think's going to be heartbroken by sort of meeting her idol and seeing how far he falls from what she's imagined, is actually totally cool with it and accepts that people are people and can kind of see the beauty in almost any situation and roll with the punches and just be a better person. And I think that is one of the film's major strengths, is that it takes that road at the end.
Well, her character has such a strong arc because when we meet her, she is entirely submissive to Michael's whims and feeble. She feels and calls herself out for being stupid all the time or being dumb and not smart enough and not pretty enough. And this experience makes her get past all of that, and she feels like a better person. So it's a lovely arc, and she's not the main character, but it was a lovely point to finish the film.
Agreed.
Yeah. So it's a very slight movie. It's a very small movie, but I loved it. I had such a enjoyable time watching this movie, and to me the thing is as well, the movie is only like an hour and a half.
Yeah, you're not, even if it's not your cup of tea, you're not going to waste a lot of time with it. So
yeah, it doesn't ask a lot of you, and it offers you so much,
and it's different. Go see something different. And this is coming from the dude who is obsessed with all things Marvel, like and sort of some not saying that all Marvel is cookie cutter, but just stuff that's at its present always. Just go. It just gives you a chance. It's, again, like I said in the beginning of the show, it's a chance to go see something different without a large sort of like cost of entry.
Yeah, no, it's great. And like just a thing for me as well, I think Charlie Kaufman to me is the closest. I'm a big fan of the genre of magical realism in writing, and it's something that I've always been fascinated by, and how to translate magical realism onto film. And not many films, like the great writer in magical realism is Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and they've even tried to make movies of his work that have completely failed. Love in the Time of Cholera is one, but I think Charlie Kaufman is the guy that makes magical realism work on film. And this to me feels, if you're into Gabriel Garcia Marquez or magical realism, this to me feels like there was a book that Marquez wrote later in life called Memories of My Melancholy Whore, which is it's a very short book. It's like 90 pages, I think, and it's basically about an old newspaper editor who's like 90 years old who has an affair with a 20-year-old prostitute. It's a very small chamber piece, but it's lovely, and this to me felt akin to that. It gave me the same feeling as when I read that book. So, if you're into that sort of work as well, if you like that kind of writing, I think Charlie Kaufman is the filmmaker for you. And this is just a lovely addition to that sort of work. But it is a very small film. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, small film, and all those things Shahir said, absolutely true. Or if you're just a sick fuck that likes watching puppets do it, it's got everything. It's got everything for everyone, all people. Takes all kinds.
Exactly. You can, jerk off if you need to, or you can have a little cry if you need to.
Or you can do both, or you can have some goddamn self-control.
Put it away in the theater.
Put it away.
Yeah.
For once in your life.
God damn it.
But yeah, this has been the only podcast about Anomalisa. Shahir, where can people find you?
You can find me at shahirdaud.com. That's SHAHIRDAUD. You can see all my work. You can connect with me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff there. If you liked our review and want to talk to us about Anomalisa or anything else we've talked about this year, hit us up on our Gmail at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com, our Twitter account at onlymoviepod. We've been getting a lot of emails.
Yes, as you learned last episode, Shahir is a fan of any email that agrees with him, that proves him right in certain ways.
What can I say? People are hearing me speak, and my words are resonating. Hey, I'm not saying I'm getting a big hit or that I'm always right.
We should probably have a little bit of a fan war and see who's right about stuff. So if you think Shahir's right, write in stuff about that. If you think I'm right about things that we argue about, write in and tell me that, because right now, Shahir's been rubbing like 2 emails in my face for like a week. He's like texting me about them and shit.
I didn't. I was just happy that we got emails, but the fact that they agreed with me about Kylo Ren, whatever.
Anyway, we talked about that already. You can find me at Matthew Kroll. That's MatthewKrol.com. You can find me on Instagram at Skeletor, the number 4 PREZ, and on Twitter at Emperor MSK. And so I guess the only way to really sort of end this, I wish I had some action figures to sort of bang together.
I'm just going to say, try the chili.
Try the chili and go to the zoo. You can do it in a day. It's only zoo sized.
There's a toy store right outside your hotel. Try the chili. Go to the zoo.
There you go. All right, guys. We will see you next time. This has been the only podcast about zoos, chili, and sex toys. Bye.
Bye.